Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Radio Show. This is your host Tim Radio, and this is the first episode of the year 2020. So I hope everybody had a good New Year and Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. This one's going to be a pretty short one, pretty quick. Going to start off with a Joaquin Phoenix clip here from the Golden Globes, or I think that's what this is. I forget, but anyway, we'll just play this. I thought it's pretty interesting.
First, I'd like to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press for recognizing and acknowledging the link between animal agriculture and climate change. It's a very...
And actually, I think that's just a good point right here. I'll let the rest play through, but basically the whole cow fart theory of global warming, suggesting that even if you get rid of all the cars and all this other stuff, if you still eat meat, that's still the number one contributor because of methane and stuff like that. And then just what it actually takes to raise the meat, not just what the meat outputs itself, but what we output raising the meat. So the amount of water, the shipping, all that kind of stuff. But mainly the fact that actually just cows in general, they fart a lot, creates a lot of methane. That's actually way more contributing factor than the average CO2 that a person puts out. But anyway, so that's kind of neat that he pointed that out.
A bold move making tonight plant-based, and it really sends a powerful message to my fellow nominees. We all know there's no competition between us. It's like this thing that is created to sell advertisements for the TV show. I'm inspired by you. I'm your student. I can't believe the beautiful, mesmerizing, unique work that you've all done this year. And I know people say this, but I really do feel honored to be mentioned with you. Some of you I reached out to personally. Some I'm still a little too intimidated by, even though we share the same agent. Hi, Christian. You're not here, but that's it. And Todd, you were such an amazing friend and collaborator, and you convinced me to do this movie, and you encouraged me to give everything and to be sincere, and I'm such a pain in the ass. I cannot believe you put up with me. I'm so indebted to you. Rooney, love you. Contrary to popular belief, I don't want to rock the boat, but the boat is f***ing rocked. And it's really nice that so many people have come up and sent their well wishes to Australia, but we have to do more than that, right? It's such a beautiful gesture, and I have not always been a virtuous man. I'm learning so much, and so many of you in this room have given me multiple opportunities to try to get it right, and I'm deeply grateful. But I think together, hopefully, we can be unified and actually make some changes. It's great to vote, but sometimes we have to take that responsibility on ourselves and make changes and sacrifices in our own lives, and I hope that we can do that. We don't have to take private jets to Palm Springs for the awards sometimes, or back, please. And I'll try to do better, and I hope you will too. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this night and all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because he actually called them out on, all the other people whipping around in private jets and then lecturing us about climate change, which you see a lot. But yeah, so Ricky Gervais, he had his own little bit there. He was just ripping up stuff. That's expected, but it's nice to kind of see the other people get on it too. Like a couple years ago, I remember like this kind of going around, just in general, this point being made that these guys, like, he'll go out, use his private jet, and then lecture people on global warming and stuff. And then he even went like to accept an award from like some water organization or whatever. He flew like 8,000 miles or something in a private jet. Just insane amount of. And I get, he's not going to want to go on certain planes. He's going to get hassled, but I mean, you go to first class on most jets, whatever, you're fine. Or even just not owning your own private jet, even if they did some kind of sharing thing or whatever with certain kind of people that don't ask for autographs or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's something, but it's kind of crazy for these guys to have all their own jets basically on standby. And they can just show up there, get flown, go to Paris, and then we used to hear those stories about like actors and stuff or whatever, just kind of going out to Paris for supper, spend the night and then fly back the next day, and just silly stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to see an actual actor get an award and then shooting off about something that actually makes sense and it's not hypocritical. But anyway, Finland this is the youngest PM in the world right now. It's a female prime minister in Finland, and basically they're going from a 5-day week to a 4-day week at 6 hours a day. So I actually proved this about 10 years ago. I actually did this at a job that I was working at, went part-time, and outperformed everybody that was full-time. So I was doing half hours a day, 4 hours a day, and I was getting better numbers than everybody that was full-time. And the idea is that, like, if you go in there for 8 hours, you're going to be there for 8 hours. It's so daunting, the thought of it's just brutal. Every day you wake up, you go. But if you just got to bang out 4 hours, you'll work like a dog for 4 hours. If you can get, and I actually made the case that I should get more, that I should make as much money full time as I did part time, because I'm getting the same or better numbers, actually better numbers. But they wouldn't do it. They just like, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, it makes total sense. You actually pay less in the day. Like I was saying, I actually just asked for more per hour, but it was actually still cheaper than hiring me for the full day. Just pay me a little bit more than what it would be just for the 4 hours only. So they didn't buy it, so I left and went freelance. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people can work remotely. A lot of people are web developers or programmers or other kind of developers, artists, do marketing, all that kind of stuff, anything in e-commerce. But anyway, they kind of did a test thing in Sweden, and then they're kind of using that as kind of a reference to actually apply it themselves in Finland. So I don't know how they're actually going to roll it out and if they're going to make companies do this or what. But like they mentioned here, Microsoft Japan in November introduced a 3-day weekend for employees. So just the weekend was extended, and productivity went up almost 40%. Now, I would expect some of that to die off a bit, People still get burnout and all that kind of stuff. And when you reduce the window that you can operate in, you might get lower lows. But in general, I think it's better for people to work that kind of productivity in most jobs. Not all jobs are like that. Some jobs it's not a big deal to work 8 hours. Like if you're driving, the whole job is to drive. So if you're gonna cut your hours and only work 4 days a week, 6 hours a day, 20 hours, that's ridiculous. To work like 24 hours in a week, like it's crazy. But for a lot of jobs, but certain jobs like call centers, stuff like that they should totally be doing that. Just have more people, and if people want to work more hours, if the company wants to offer more hours, and but my point is companies should be a lot more open to this kind of thing. They shouldn't just be like, nope, don't like it, too bad, get out. They should actually experiment with it, do the numbers, crunch it, see what happens. If they don't like it, they can go back, stuff. It's an expensive thing, but if you can actually boost your productivity by almost 40% and keep it relatively high like that, you're laughing. If you can just meet the same standards and you're just creating a better quality of life, then why not, if you can at least maintain the standard. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Epstein news. This is the handler, basically, the female handler that's like in hiding. We covered her a couple times, Ghislaine Maxwell. British socialite. She's the daughter of like a disgraced politician that funneled out tons of money in Britain and stuff. She was managing like all the girls, getting all the girls. She was actually kind of really the handler, the madame for these girls. You know, like the one kind of teaching them how to do everything, how to approach these people. It wasn't Epstein being like, hey, if you're gonna go give my guy a back rub, make sure you do this and that and the other thing or whatever. No, this was her doing that kind of stuff. He was kind of Epstein was the front man for it. She was the actual worker behind the scenes. So anyway, she's in hiding, and supposedly she's being protected by former U.S. Navy SEALs over credible death threats. And because everybody, as soon as Epstein went into prison there, everybody was saying he's going to kill himself, like knowing that they're going to kill him and they're going to suicide him, make it look like he killed himself. Like, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. They're going to make it look, whatever, he's going to die in jail. He's not, this will never go to trial and all this kind of stuff. And then sure enough, the guy's like in there for like 2 weeks, and then he hangs himself, and all these things, like the videotape missing and corrupted, the guards that weren't even supposed to be working there that time, not checking on him, doing all this other stuff. Him saying that the guy attacked him in his cell like 2 weeks before that or a week before that. They put him on suicide watch because they said it looked like he tried to kill himself, but he said it was one of these other. It was his cellmate at the time. Then they removed the cellmate, and then he hangs himself with real sheets when he was supposed to have the paper sheets. If he was really on suicide watch, they would have kept it so they knew he wasn't really suicidal because they gave him back his sheets, and then all this weird stuff, And then they just came out with that, looked like the 60 Minutes thing there the other night, talking about kind of like a noose. Like, it wasn't even like a sheet wrapped up and just hung himself. It was like a manufactured noose. Why would you can just hang yourself with your own sheets. Right? You don't need... So, clearly someone went in with that. That's what it looks like. But anyway, she's being hidden. Supposedly has something to do with the Mossad agency, the Israeli intelligence agency. They have a bunch of information, or she has information on them. They're moving her all over the place, keeping her undercover, and basically, she says, according to one of her friends, one of her close, I don't know how close, but former associate, I guess, saying Ghislaine and her sister Isabel remain totally convinced that she'll escape any criminal convictions and will eventually clear the family name and return to high society once the dust has settled. So they want to keep doing what they're doing. And but I don't know. I think seems pretty weird. I feel like she's just going to kind of disappear with everything else. Just going to shut this right quick. All right. So anyway, we'll see what happens with her. I almost feel like she's made up. Like, she doesn't even seem real. Like, it's weird. But anyway. Judge Judy. Look at this.
Opinion contributor, Joe Fruit.
Judge Judy's going to join Bloomberg on the campaign trail. So Bloomberg's this billionaire from New York, former mayor, created a financial company, Bloomberg News and stuff like that. They do a lot of financial stuff. And basically, she's going to back him. Looks like she's going to back him. Now, I just thought it's interesting because I remember her talk about Trump, like when Trump started running at first, and I thought it was kind of not in favor, but she wasn't near as dismissive as everybody else that was saying it. So I'm just going to play that clip, this older clip. This is right before Trump became the nominee.
With you. Now, a lot of people are saying that one of Trump's appeals is because he just says it like it is. Okay, do you feel like he's taken your style?
No, do I feel it?
Yeah.
And then some.
Yes. Yeah.
And you may accuse Donald of a whole bunch of things.
Yes.
But you know what he's thinking because he repeats himself and says it over and over again, and people believe what he's saying to them.
Right.
He's saying, this is what I think, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make America great again. Well, we all want to hear that. Can you deliver on that promise? I don't know. But I think...
What if he had the right vice president? Maybe he could. I mean, have you thought about if he came to you and said, Judge Judy,
that would
come
be
on, yeah.
actually terrible.
Why would it be terrible? That would actually, for people who like don't want Trump to win, that would be terrible, because I think you'd be a nice anchor to the ticket. You'd balance it out. You have the the women's vote.
I actually think that if Donald, and it appears that he's going to be the candidate of the Republican Party, then it would be nice if he had somebody who really had some good experience with government to act as a running mate. That would seem to me only logical, and quite frankly, I don't. I know the family court, and I know my little television courtroom, and I'm too old, and I don't like to work so hard. So with all of those things, and it doesn't pay enough.
That's not, no, what a pay cut. You have to take such a pay cut to be vice president. Yeah,
that's it.
And so...
All right, well, I mean, Colbert's, I can't stand him anymore. He's lost. But I thought that was interesting for a couple things mentioned there. One of the things he mentions is, well, you'd get the woman vote. I think that's pretty sexist and pretty dumb to think that, oh, well, if a woman would be the running mate, she would get the female vote. Like as if women wouldn't vote for Trump or something, or a guy or whatever. So, and that's kind of the thing. The left can say these things, and it's just normal. Like, that's just a fact. You got to get the women vote. Got to get the women vote. So we'll do everything to get the women vote, or the black vote, or the Latino vote. But Trump's the racist one for not doing that. I don't know. But so anyway, that's one thing. You'd get the whatever. And then he actually says that she says first that she doesn't know if he would be able to make America great again, whether or not that would actually, he says he'll do that. Everybody wants to hear it. I don't know if he'll actually be able to do that. And then he responds to it with, well, maybe if he had a good running mate, like you, if he had you, maybe he could make America great again. Right? And then she basically responds saying, you would need somebody that's actually from the government, that would be a good idea to have somebody that's actually in the government. So Trump actually ends up, fast forward to the future, becomes a Republican nominee, beats Hillary, and then wins president, has Mike Pence, who's a longtime politician, like, been there forever, and a governor, actually has him as his running mate, and then continues on the path that he's going. And then now she's kind of going against that and saying, well, she's going to go for Bloomberg. But they kind of agreed, like my kind of point here is that they kind of both agreed that if Trump did what he actually ends up doing, that would probably end up working. But yet, Colbert will still attack him every night and stuff like that. So I thought that was just kind of interesting that they're saying, if he does this, if that, okay, yeah, maybe it might actually work. And then he goes and does that, and then they'll never mention this clip again. Because there's a lot of little details in there. Even the part where he's just saying that the women, like, you'll get the women vote. Like, if she was black, she would get the black women vote or something. It's just stupid, And she probably will. Like, most of the people that actually watch her are females that watch her show. So it's not even going against that as a statement. It's just funny that they're the kind of people, the left media, are the ones saying, like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that because it's kind of racist or something like that, when those very kind of points that they make are actually the racist things, or sexist or whatever. To assume that women wouldn't like Trump, that there'd be something wrong with a woman if she liked Trump. Right? And people do that. I mean, like, they'll get, like, you're a woman, how could you support somebody like that? Well, you're kind of degrading someone's free will and choice as an individual to that's just kind of messed up. Anyway, we'll move on. I was reading this article about this company here inside the secretive Silicon Valley group. This is on Recode here. Vox.com/Recode. Inside the secret of Silicon Valley group that has funneled over $20 million to Democrats. So basically, it's a secret group. They don't have a website. They don't have a Facebook group. They keep everything totally secret in the company and stuff like that. It's all tiered up so that not everybody knows everything. Who is donating? Who's doing this? Who's putting money behind this event or whatever? And there's a really good quote here, but basically, in short, what they're saying is that traditional people want to put the money behind where they think they can flip like a certain state or a riding, that like it's Republican but the line's close enough where if they just put some extra money behind that candidate that they could win that spot, and that they kind of do that spot by spot. Their idea is that instead of actually calculating that way what your chances of winning are, they're looking at how much impact each dollar can have on the end result. So if they put money here versus there versus don't put any money, like underfund, like if they know they're going to lose it, don't spend any money there. Just lose it. Don't even bother spending any campaigning. You just let it lose and put that dollar that you would put there behind a spot that you think you can flip. So it's kind of like they reference it as like a money ball. It's kind of the reference to like the baseball, strategy of basically calculating what the value of your dollar is spent on certain things, as opposed to going after a certain outcome. You're looking at the effectiveness of each dollar spent as you're spending it in different spots, different members, different people, different campaigns, different whatever. So it's not even whether or not you win or lose. It's just about the effectiveness of those dollars. And that's kind of what they're aiming for. And they try to separate all the actual influencers and all the donors and stuff that are actually putting the money behind it, and who's actually choosing, what things to back in the end. It's kind of hard to say. It's all kind of pretty secret, but apparently Eric Schmidt from Google is a big guy. The co-founder of Facebook has put a bunch of money in. They set out to raise $10 million in 2018 by convincing as many as 400 donors to give $2,700 each, the legal maximum, to as many as 20 different congressional candidates. So it's kind of weird that there's all this money and they're secretly really putting it in to play. Like, these are social justice warriors with millions of dollars coordinating with each other to try and make, they're pissed at Donald Trump. They're trying to find ways to get him out, by any means necessary. Now, this isn't, they used to complain about this with like the Koch brothers and stuff. It's just these billionaire entrepreneurs that owned a whole ton of different companies and properties and all this kind of stuff, and they would always donate to all these different proxy groups and super PACs and stuff, and that would pay for the advertising of all these different But I mean, this goes much deeper than that. This is actually coordinating with tech companies, getting into like the nitty gritty, getting into like this isn't just money bombs. These are like strategic attacks, and it's getting so fine tuned that it's actually, you don't even know if you can impact it, if you can even do anything about it, because you're just going to be constantly overwhelmed by certain actions. So even if you could flip a state in your favor, if you want to, that's a Democrat state and you want to flip in your side, you just can't. There's just this kind of artificial money barrier that they know that you want to flip it. Like they have all the data, they have all the statistics, they'll track everything that everyone's doing on all the websites, see how they lean. They'll make fake websites. I don't know about this company in particular, but I'm sure. But these organizations and stuff will actually make fake websites, mix it with content, track you on the website, see which things you'll watch more, what articles you'll read, get your political bias, so they'll see whether or not you're pro or anti-Trump, and then use that demographic data to as kind of like as polls, as kind of like doing polls. So just by creating fake and spinning content over and over across like 1,000 different websites, these people hit these websites through Facebook and all this other thing. They can judge on how, like, what demographics, and kind of categorize them, put them in different boxes, and say, okay, look, this these people in this area are this angry about this. These people in that area are angry about that. And they can really harness that kind of data to make really strategic decisions on what the actual ground game would be. What if we go to this area and we start screaming about this, how we think that population will respond. If it's kind of like a, upper class white suburbs, or if it's like a, like a trailer park place in the West, or if it's, like the downtown Chicago, whatever, like all these different things that they can actually put together to start manufacturing like this map, this heat map of where they have to dump dollars in to override the people that are there, or to flip stuff that's on the teetering, or to just pull cash out because it doesn't matter. You're going to win by default. So I don't know. It's a hard thing to, as a individual, to have confidence of going out and voting when this is the kind of stuff like Google CEO Eric Schmidt. I mean, come on. Like when they're getting political about stuff, that gets a little creepy. They should kind of, when you're at that level, you should kind of step back, especially when you're CEO of Google, the platform that we get almost all of our content through. I mean, Google is almost the internet itself. I mean, without Google, it's actually hard to find content because so many services use Google in the back end, or Amazon. So the servers, the data mining stuff, the analytics, the all the APIs that they use for maps and for voice recognition and CAPTCHA and all these different things, man. So for them to go out and start backing stuff politically, not right. Anyway, so we see this stuff with Iran. Trump blew up this guy, this general in Iran. Supposedly the guy was actually anti-terrorist in some way, so that, like, you had all that ISIL group. You heard ISIL group before. They were attacking stuff. They were actually gathering a whole bunch of territory, but they this what's it called, general, whatever, what's his name, Soleimani, something like that. Anyway, they drone strike this guy, murder him with a drone strike, and a bunch of people are pissed. And Iran, he has his own following there. They said millions. Some of the reports were like millions pour out into the streets mourning, blah, blah, blah. It was really like a few thousand. It looks packed because it's a relatively small area. It's not like the mall there in the, by the White House or whatever, where they have like the inauguration. It's not something like that. And even that would be like 1 million people. It was not that many people. It was thousands, though, for sure. And a lot of people, they're saying like they're going to retaliate, they're going to do this. Definitely they're going to retaliate. I would say for sure they're going to do something crazy in response, either foreign or domestic in the States. Most likely in the States. Supposedly they do have sleeper cells, meaning they get people living here and stuff like that, doing normal stuff for like 20 years, and then they're activated, and that stuff's known to exist. They get found all the time. Usually they're in churches and stuff like that, but we'll see. Hopefully they can thwart any attempt, But yeah, man, they sent off a bunch of people as well, a bunch of troops, Airborne Division, 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg. So, and this just happened on New Year's Eve. So this is hot right now. Trump, in response to the Iran saying they're going to retaliate, they basically said we're going to retaliate. We're pissed. We're not going to accept this. Trump basically says we got 52 things lined up, which is apparently the same amount of hostages that was there in 1979 when Iran protesters overran the U.S. Embassy. So I don't know if that's a coincidence, if that's a reference or what, but basically said they got 52 places of high level important to Iran and Iranian culture. Now, really what he's saying, he's going to blow up some ancient sites. I mean, you got to keep in mind, this is basically this Middle East there is biblical times. This is biblical stuff that's there. There's a lot of sites. There's a lot of churches or mosques. Old texts, libraries, all those kind of things. Places of worship in general. They're not supposed to go blow that stuff up, especially since, there's likely going to be civilians and all that involved. But, Trump's... And it's kind of a hard thing to shoot off about that kind of response because, yeah, it does seem kind of brash and stupid, but at the same time, nobody's going to want to really mess with it. Like, when you see him actually respond and you know that it's the U.S., if it was some other small country and they're shooting off like him, then you'd be like, dude, you're totally in the wrong position to be shooting off. But he's in the exact right position to be shooting off. He's the only position that you can actually shoot off the way he's shooting off. So for him not to shoot off that way and to hold the ground and say, if you touch anything, even if Americans over there in Dubai or whatever, in here, domestic, doesn't matter, or even any of our allied interests, we're just going to destroy you. We're going to annihilate you. All this, big brash talk and stuff, and really puts the ball in their court and says, really, do you want to sacrifice millions to retaliate and ultimately lose? You're not going to win. Iran's not going to take over the U.S. It would just be mutual destruction. But ultimately, the U.S. would prevail. First of all, land mass. You got to consider land mass. Even if they bombarded us with drones and stuff, they just the amount of territory that we cover in North America, Canada, and the U.S., it's just unreal. Like, you couldn't get it 10 feet to the shore, let alone in the mainland. In Iran, I mean, a dozen drones over there, which we have like, well, not we, but the States has like 190 bases, something like that. Iran's got none outside. It's probably got one or two hooked up with like Russia or something like that. If Russia got involved, that would be a different story, because Russia has kind of the same advantage. They're really spread out. They got a devout population, but they're still lagging behind big time. They wouldn't want to get in it either. They wouldn't want to get in the hot tub with the States. That's for sure. And really, they could use it to their advantage and say, okay, we're going to clean stuff up, blah, blah, blah. But they're not, because there's a huge, massive population that literally chants death to America. They hate the idea of Western culture, fundamentally hate it. So there's a good about 300 or 400 million people in the world within the Islam culture that, when queried, will respond with those things like, do you think it is okay to kill your wife for cheating on you? Yes. Do you think that it's this? Yes. And not only is it okay, but you're supposed to, and blah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just the fundamentals of, it's just like the same thing with, you used to have like really devout Christians that were like, oh no, gays bad, but you can't do anything, it's a sin, blah, blah. And they'd be terrified of gay people, or just like avoid them at all costs. You don't really get that so much anymore. You used to get a lot more before, less and less and less as we go on. Islam is basically in the same kind of situation in certain parts of the world. It's just It's just further back in time, basically. So there's a lot of people that got to get caught up with modern day societies and stuff like that. But there's a massive population, especially in Iran, that do not like Western culture, and the fact that they're getting bombed, and they kind of like this guy because he was getting rid of other terrorists. Like this general was actually getting rid of these other terrorist groups like ISIL. But at the same time, he doesn't care about killing his own people to do it. So he did a bunch of bad stuff throughout his history and stuff. It's just pretty complicated. It's really hard to see which way it's going to go, how deep it gets, how much info Trump and other people have versus the common public. How much is for show for us and for them, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway. Yeah, here they're saying 1 million strong. This is basically the whole image. You could zoom out like maybe 2 times, and that would be the entire extent. State television said it was several million strong turnout. I mean, it's state TV. Of course they're going to say it. It's their state TV. and there's just some quotes here saying what America did is definitely a crime. The response, there must be a response, but we don't want war. But they do want they want a response. People, just saying death to America and stuff. Our message to America is we will hit you. We'll make you pay for the blood that you spilled. America should know that they started this, but we will end it. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously. Said nobody ever who survived. I mean, if you act on that, you're toast, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. Good luck getting to the States, by the way, Mehdi Gorbani. But I don't know. It just seems kind of silly. I mean, this is propaganda here. They just want to make it seem like people are really pissed. I'm sure there's a ton of Iranians that are happy this guy's gone. I'm sure there's actually a lot that are upset by it too. But, I mean, just going to have to wait and see. It's kind of creepy, but I don't think it's going to be World War III. It's just like the whole thing with Kim Jong-un. They're like, and then he's going to have the Christmas surprise, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that, and blah. There's so much stuff happening behind the scenes. All the stuff that we see is just the stuff that they put out there to kind of calm the population or to kind of give them confidence or to do this. It's manipulation. It's propaganda. Even on Trump's side, that's propaganda, what he's doing. So anyway, CNBC shows wrong photos for Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard. Totally on purpose. They've been duping these two since the start. Sometimes they don't even put them in the list. A lot of times they won't even include them in the list. They'll just skip them completely because they're the two that are Democrats but aren't in the Democrat establishment. Everybody else follows the establishment stuff. They get establishment dollars. They get this. They get all these other things. But Yang just kind of left field says all this weird stuff like, oh, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month. And if you do that, I'll give you $1,000 a month. And anybody who gets it and blah, 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 and just makes up all this stupid crap. They just picked like this other Asian guy. I don't even know who this guy is. But they picked like it's a totally wrong picture. How do you get Klobuchar but you don't get Gabbard? I mean, nobody knows what Klobuchar looks like. Well, you do in this picture. But Gabbard's much more recognizable than Klobuchar. So clearly this is on purpose, man. They do this stuff all the time. The amount of times they just removed her from the list completely, even though she was polling above everybody else. She was actually polling higher than every other person here. There's a Drudge report that had like 100,000 votes. And she was number one. Second place was Biden at like 20,000 votes. So she had 5 times more than second place. And I would bet you that that's wrong number. I bet you that's a wrong number, 3.4 million. I would almost guarantee that that's an incorrect number. Just so weird, though. Yeah, I mean, if you typed in Andrew Yang, you're going to get the proper Andrew Yang. I don't even know who this girl is. Kind of looks like the that other one that was running. Yeah, Gillibrand. Here's a photo of Gillibrand. So stupid. Yeah, they called him John Yang a couple times because he complained about this quite a few times, Andrew Yang, because they would use the wrong photo, say his name wrong. They would call him Yang. Then they called him John Yang on TV. And that's really the only thing propelling this guy forward. People like him because he's kind of like he's kind of the antithesis of Trump in a lot of ways. But he's too goofy. I mean, he's not going to get anywhere. I mean, the guy's just too goofy. He doesn't actually give any policy, nothing like that. Anyway, so we saw that part. That was kind of funny. The Joker thing. And then, just lastly here, we got Trump saying that the U.S. will not leave Iraq unless... not Iran, this is Iraq. So they got a base there. Supposedly there's some mention of them leaving the base, kind of giving them notice that they're leaving. And Trump says, "No, we're not leaving. We spent billions on that thing, on that base. We're not leaving unless Iraq pays us for the airbase." So he's got to try to sell them their used airbase so that they'll leave. But that's classic negotiation stuff. If he wants out, he's at least going to get some money out of it. I mean, why not? Whatever. Anyway, guys, it's kind of a quick one, a little loose there. Getting back into the groove in the new year. Anyway, we'll have more daily episodes. Check us tomorrow. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and the notification thing down at the underneath the video in the bottom right there. That'll make sure you get the new episodes, all that kind of stuff. It'll, we'll see you on the next one. And share it. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think. Anyway, have a good one, guys. See you on the next one.